The source of the chaos is not the defendant seeking justice. The source is a system that failed John O'Keefe. The criminal trial is over. Karen Read was acquitted, but the real battle is just beginning.
There, JJ's 14-year-old niece, Kaylee, a plaintiff in this case, is home alone, asleep. That's when Karen starts plotting.
The O'Keefe family has filed a wrongful passing civil lawsuit, not against the people who actually partied inside the house, but against the woman the police and the state tried to frame for the passing of John O'Keefe.
Defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all?
We're going to try to get the truth out there. But like I said, the days of her being on the defensive, those days are over.
They want millions from Karen Read, alleging she created an outrageously false narrative to hide her guilt. But let's get real. The false narrative was built by the real conspirators. They are mourning their loss, yes, but they are pointing the finger at the wrong person. This is the ultimate betrayal. The ultimate cover-up continued in civil court. This is the Karen Read civil trial. And we're about to expose why the O'Keefe's lawsuit isn't about justice. It's about protecting the real attackers inside 34 Fairview. All that being said, everything's alleged. Welcome to the point. Let's get to it. The O'Keefe family's civil lawsuit against Karen Read for the wrongful passing and emotional distress is a calculated move. Think about it like this. They tried to get her for the passing of John O'Keefe not once but twice, and the jury said no both times. And now they're trying the OJ playbook, the lowest standard of proof in civil court. They want the money and vindication, but their entire case forces them to ignore a mountain of evidence that points the finger squarely at the people they're protecting. Let's focus on the audacity of this lawsuit. The O'Keefe family claims Karen Read's defense, the conspiracy theory if you will, is what caused them extreme emotional distress. Stop and think about that. The family is not suing the people whose actions have been called into question multiple times. The members of law enforcement who were inside that house, or the ones who were first to respond. No, they are suing a woman who was acquitted by a jury of her peers. Why? Because Karen Read's defense exposed the rot. It exposed the questions about John O'Keefe's injuries, the trauma to his face and back of his head, the claw marks, the injuries inconsistent with a simple car impact. Injuries that, according to the defense, point to an altercation inside 34 Fairview Road. Look, the O'Keefe family civil lawsuit tries to force the narrative back to a cracked taillight, and a story about Karen Read and others who happened to have too many drinks that night, while at the same time ignoring every single piece of exculpatory information, exculpatory evidence that led to her acquittal. The defense argued the injuries were not from a car. They were consistent with a severe attack. What happened inside 34 Fairview? Why are the people who were there, friends of John O'Keefe and fellow police families, so committed to the story that John never made it inside? And this isn't speculation anymore. I don't feel like it's speculation anymore. Now, as always, I've been wrong before, and if you disagree, you can let me know down in the comments below. Because at the end of the day, everything is alleged. This is just an open discussion channel. But the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, was fired by the state. Other troopers were disciplined and removed from their positions. I mean, it got so bad at MSP, so bad. When the governor was looking for somebody to replace that vacant position, who was going to be this individual to take the lead, fix the situation, fix the Massachusetts State Police Department? She didn't even look for anybody inside the state. She had to pull somebody from outside the state of Massachusetts to run MSP because there's so many questions and concerns about how that whole entire organization had been ran. And this is the very police misconduct and cover-up that Karen Read's defense exposed. And the O'Keefe family's lawsuit is using their word as gospel. They are suing Karen Read for exposing the corruption that may have been involved in the passing of their loved one. And it's absolutely a devastating hypocrisy. Now let's address the elephant in the courtroom, the media circus. Nobody can deny that this was a media circus. The O'Keefe family's emotional distress claims specifically accuse Karen Read of creating a public campaign of disinformation to pit her following against them. This is simply an attempt to blame the victim for widespread public scrutiny that followed the case. But credit where credit's due, it is a good misdirection. Karen Read was the target of a passing investigation led by state troopers. And she and her defense team used the tool available to criminally accuse. They used the truth. This media circus wasn't caused by a conspiracy or misinformation or misdirection or any of that. The media circus was caused by these individuals using the truth to speak against what was going on. It was the inexplicable nature of the initial investigation, the lack of transparency, the missing evidence, the apparent conflicts of interest among those first on the scene that caused a journalist like Aidan Kearney and countless others to question the official narrative. Look, the media circus began because the initial investigation was done so poorly. That's just a fact of it. At least I believe that to be a fact. And not only was the investigation done so poorly, it was executed in a manner that begged for everything to be a conspiracy theory. When the government's official story is riddled with holes, inconsistencies, and evidence of a compromised investigation, you cannot blame the defendant for bringing in an expert defensive team to expose the truth, even if that exposure goes viral. The source of the chaos is not the defendant seeking justice. The source is a system that failed John O'Keefe and then tried to frame Karen Read. The civil suit is forcing all the occupants of that house and the compromised officers to answer under oath again, but this time without the protection of the prosecution's shield. And this time Karen Read's going on the offense. She's going after MSP for civil rights violations and conspiracy. She's going after the Alberts, McCabes, and Higgins for civil conspiracy, for allegedly working together to frame her, to divert attention away from them and onto her, and away from everything that happened inside that home. If Karen Read is successful in her counterclaims, a civil jury will be establishing that these individuals engaged in a civil conspiracy to violate her rights. This is a legal stamp of guilt that a criminal acquittal can never wash away. The O'Keefe family can be mad. They can be heartbroken, but their fury is misdirected. They are suing the woman who, however imperfectly, is still the only person fighting to uncover what actually happened to John O'Keefe when he walked up to 34 Fairview. And by filing this lawsuit, they're ensuring that the very people Karen Read is accusing will be forced back into the spotlight. Listen, the Karen Read civil trial isn't just the final chapter. This is the final arena. The O'Keefe family's pursuit of millions of dollars against Karen Read is not justice. At the end of the day, it's a distraction. From certain angles and lenses, it looks like a PR stunt that continues to try to silence the truth and rewrite the history of a corruption-fueled tragedy. But Karen Read and her team have now ensured that the heat is finally coming down on the right people. They are no longer on the defense. They are launching an offense that will expose the alleged cover-up by the police and the Alberts and the McCabes and Higgins once and for all. Listen, the case tore the community apart. Anybody from the outside looking in understood that this case was tearing that community apart. But it will not truly be over until the people who stood by and let a woman take the fall for a passing that happened inside their inner circle are held accountable. The O'Keefe family may be mad at Karen Read, but I'm telling you, they're mad at the wrong person. They're mad at the wrong people. There's a lot of fingers in this story. There's a lot of fingers that could go to a lot of directions, depending on how you look at this thing. But from how I'm seeing this, none of those fingers go to Karen Read. None of those fingers go to her as being responsible for any of this. The only way that she could ever be held responsible for any of this is in some sort of situation where the laws of physics and the laws of science no longer apply to anything on this planet. There is a scenario there where McCarthy's and the Waterfall could be held liable in the O'Keefe's lawsuit. I can see aspects of that playing out, but Karen Read's not responsible for any of this. She's not the cause of any of this. Something else happened inside that home. That's the only other logical explanation. Something else happened at 34 Fairview. Because science and a jury of her peers say Karen Read did not do this. But if you enjoy this and a more fair, open conversation, maybe check one of these videos out. Y'all be safe now.